Chapter 137 Golden Sincerity Brush. 2 Spirit Stones. A clear, melodious female voice reached Han Li's ear. Han Li was shocked. He discovered that the vendor sitting across from him with their head buried in a book was actually a sweet and charming young lady. "This book doesn't have anything missing?" Han Li asked after he recovered. "Nothing. 1st through 13th layer of the Eternal Spring Cultivation art is completely there, with not a single missing line," the young lady answered with an easygoing manner. Han Li nodded his head. Then he flipped through several pages before closing the book. "Would you exchange it for medicine pills?" Han Li asked straightforwardly. "Medicine pills?" The young lady was somewhat stunned, widely opening her beautiful eyes. "It depends on the medicine. If it's for healing or illness, it will be extremely costly," the young girl spat out as she stroked her forehead. Hearing this young lady's words, Han Li knew this matter was of great importance and bluntly handed over a bottle of yellow dragon pellets. "Consolidation medicine, it can progress one's magic power," Han Li said assuredly. "Consolidation medicine?" The young woman who was originally calm grew somewhat tense. She moved toward Han Li and lightly took the jade bottle. She tossed out a medicine pill and lowered her head to smell the medicinal quality. Han Li stood above her and clearly saw the young lady's exposed, flawless neck. In addition, because the young woman was too close to him, the scent of a refined clan daughter assailed his nose and caused Han Li's heartbeat to involuntarily speed up. His complexion also grew slightly red. It truly is a medicine pill that can progress one's magic power. A moment after the young woman smelled it, she shouted with pleasant surprise. She raised her head and looked at Han Li with a happy expression, expectantly saying, "Do you still have more of this medicine pill? If so, I will exchange for how much you have. You can select the things in my stall as you wish. If there is nothing that will do, I can also purchase it with spirit stones." With this said, the young woman tightly held the medicine bottle. Her eyes were unblinkingly fixed onto Han Li, afraid that she would hear him say no. Seeing the charming and gentle young woman suddenly tense up, Han Li found it funny. However, he could not help but think to himself that he had underestimated the value of this medicine pills a bit. In the future, he should be a bit more prudent. "Young woman, don't be anxious. First let's finish the business before us. Will it be fine to talk about it further then?" Han Li originally thought to refuse her. However, when he saw the clear expression in her eyes, he unknowingly recalled his little sister all of a sudden. His heart softened for a moment and those words slipped out, "I am truly embarrassed. I've somewhat forgotten my manners." The young woman seemed to have become aware of her lack of manners, and her complexion turned scarlet. "This book only requires 2 pills of this kind of medicine," the young lady said after she calmed down. When Han Li heard this, he felt that her price could be regarded as fair, so he agreed. Then his gaze swept across the other goods in her stall. "What is this?" An unremarkable small gray bag piqued Han Li's interest. This bag was unusual. The bag's opening was bound tightly by a thin red rope, and its interior was bulging. Han Li reached out to grab it. "This is a bag of 7-star grass seeds. 7-star grass of 10 years or more is the best material to create paper talismans," the young lady clearly said. Han Li's heart was moved. This would be quite useful. However, he put it down in front of him without the slightest hesitation. "The other items seem to be of no use to me," Han Li slowly said after looking through once more. "You truly won't select anything else? This cold ice talisman is quite powerful. There is also this returning spring talisman. It can restore a great portion of your physical strength." The young lady was somewhat resigned and took the initiative to give Han Li recommendations. Having seen the young woman's "you're young and naive so you don't know" appearance, Han Li could not help but laugh. "What's so funny?" The young woman blushed once more. "I actually only wanted to buy cinnabar powder and a brush for drawing talismans. Unfortunately, you have neither here." Han Li spoke the rarely said truth. Cinnabar powder and talisman drawing brush. The young lady wrinkled her brow and exclaimed somewhat hesitantly. She lowered her head and muttered to herself for a moment. It greatly seemed that she had made up her mind. Suddenly, she raised her head toward Han Li and said, "I don't have cinnabar powder, but I have a top-quality talisman brush made from the neck hair of the demonic beast, golden-eyed ape. However, its price is quite high. I don't know if you have enough medicine pills to exchange for it." When Han Li heard this, he was somewhat amazed. However, he kept smiling and said, "So long as it is good, I will be able to satisfy young lady with regards to the medicine pills." When the young lady heard this, she felt relieved. She took out a spiritual talisman and used her hand to make several cutting motions over the talismans. She then threw it into the air, and it disappeared in a blaze. "Your esteemed self, please wait a moment. My elder brother will bring it shortly," the young woman added, somewhat embarrassed. "No problem. So long as it is truly a good item, I don't care about waiting for a bit longer," Han Li calmly said. After this, Han Li and the young woman had nothing to say during this time, which caused them feel a rather ambiguous feeling. Han Li actually somewhat indulged in this peculiar feeling and faintly smelled her delicate fragrance as he breathed. The young lady had her head lowered and was looking at the end of her feet. It was unknown what she was thinking. However, when Han Li saw her spotlessly white neck, he blushed a bit. "Little sister." A large voice abruptly shattered the subtle atmosphere, causing Han Li to not help but want to ferociously glare at the voice's owner. However, when Han Li turned around, he could not help but startled after he clearly saw the figure approaching. He was a large, tall and sturdy man with a stature no less than that of Crooked Soul. He was currently rushing toward them. On the way, he bumped into a few cultivators, pushing them off to the side. Those cultivators were originally angry. However, after seeing the huge man's far beyond normal stature, they all exposed an expression of shock and hesitated. Without a better option, they pinched their noses and let it go. When the young woman saw the large man's actions, she had a bit of a headache. Her elder brother's behavior was far too rude and careless. Did this not give cause and reason for other cultivators to arouse dislike for him? "This is for little sister. I brought the items over." The huge man was enveloped with a squall as he charged toward Han Li's side. He extended his hand, which was the size of a palm leaf fan, and revealed a slender wooden box that he handed over to the young woman. The young lady inwardly complained about her elder brother's rudeness and carelessness. Then she handed over the wooden box toward Han Li, indicating that Han Li should open it and examine the contents. Han Li took the case. After taking a glance at the young woman, he opened the case, exposing a golden brush that emitted a faint yellow light from tip to shaft. This brush is called Golden Sincerity. Its tip was created from the neck hair of the Grade 2 demonic beast golden-eyed ape, and its shaft was created from a blend of gold essence and crow iron. Then it was refined under a foundation establishment cultivator's well-learned ritual fire for 3 days and 3 nights. Only then was this brush successfully completed. The young woman softly explained. However, this woman stared at the brush with an expression that she was reluctant to part with it. Although he didn't completely understand what the young woman said, he knew this brush was not at all ordinary and had a great origin. He couldn't help but feel amazed that she was willing to part with this object. Could it be for those medicine pills? This young woman truly wants to exchange this brush with me. This is an impressive treasure. Han Li used his finger to lightly stroke the smooth shaft and looked at the engraving on brush's tip. Golden Sincerity, he confirmed with a deep voice. The young woman saw Han Li's doubt. After hesitating for a moment, she decided to speak the truth and dismiss the other party's doubts of the object's origin, else he dare not trade. This brush is an item handed down by my clan. It was used by some talisman creation expert. However, it is unfortunate that us 2 siblings do not have the slightest talent for creating talismans and would only squander this item in vain. In addition, my elder brother wishes to participate in this upcoming Great Immortal Ascension Assembly. His cultivation arts have already reached some sort of bottleneck and must break through with the support of medicinal power. As a result, I wish to use this object to exchange for your esteemed self's medicine pills. How is it that when I met you, the man's cultivation had reached a bottleneck? Isn't this too timely? Han Li thought with doubt. Actually, Han Li thought incorrectly. Of those in preparations for the Immortal Ascension Assembly's competition, 7 to 8 out of 10 were stuck at a bottleneck and were unable to break through. Because each and every person understood that they still had potential to push forward to another layer, they would not likely immediately participate in the Immortal Ascension Assembly's tournament, but rather hide away and continue painstakingly cultivating, hoping to reach a further layer. When they would participate in the next great assembly, they would break through and hold a higher position in the assembly. This caused every Immortal Ascension Assembly to have an amazing demand for medicine pills that progressed one's magic power.